There have been concerns recently that Vivendi are trying to do a hostile takeover of Ubisoft by buying up their shares. Now, of course, neither Yves Guillemot or any of the higher-ups seem to want this to happen or are actively fighting against it, but despite their best efforts, of course, the most recent sort of link in the chain of these recent events between Vivendi and Ubisoft, they did manage to take over Gameloft, the mobile games company owned by Michael Guillemot, brother of Yves Guillemot. Now, it is looking kind of grim for Ubisoft as Vivendi has now gobbled up more than 20% of Ubisoft's shares as its kind of efforts to control the company continues. And there's no end in sight. The company has said it is, quote, considering continuing to acquire more and also looking for a seat on Ubisoft's board, quote, consistent with its shareholder position. Now, Vivendi did say that they didn't wish to launch a bid for the company or take it over entirely, but that it did hope to build what they called a fruitful cooperation. However, Ubisoft probably don't see it that way, as they have said before that Vivendi's interest in the company is completely unwanted and a real worry for them as a development studio and of course publisher as well. And Yves Guillemot, while he hasn't really addressed this sort of super publicly, he did make a statement at E3 after their conference had finished that seemed to be kind of directed towards the remaining shareholders of Ubisoft. And he said, quote, "I love video games because the real innovation and magic happens when our teams and players are free to innovate, free to create, free to express themselves and free to have fun. This is what got us here today and that is what drives us for another 30 years and beyond, because when you are free, there is no failure, only forward." I must say, I am kind of concerned as to what would happen to Ubisoft if Vivendi did take over completely. You know, they can say they're not doing it all they want, but it doesn't exactly look promising when they're just eating up a huge amount of shares. And even if they have a controlling stock, it still isn't good. It kind of means the same thing, to be honest. You know, as much as I've read against Ubisoft sometimes, is how they've run Assassin's Creed to the ground, and all their games are kind of merging into each other, as like the Ubisoft open world game recently. They do still have some really creative games coming out. Some really interesting games. You know, so we've got some indie titles out of them like Child of Light and of course Grow Home, and the future games, for example, For Honor. Now, while that's not indie, of course, it's still really interesting looking, and they do have interesting titles under their belt. You know, even some of their big blockbuster titles are kind of taking a turn for the better. You know, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, while it was not exactly, you know, a huge leap for the series, it was a return to form after a disappointing Assassin's Creed Unity. So while Ubisoft has definitely gone downhill the recent years, they are still a company that produces good games some of the time. And I don't want to see that change and just see them like only endlessly churning out the same Ubisoft open world game TM. That is not something I want to happen, but it might be what happens, we just don't know. Fingers crossed, guys, but it's not looking good. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.